In this video, I'm going to go over how to import your invoices from somewhere like QuickBooks into Kareroo. So on the left here, we have the sample CSV that Kareroo gives us, which is gotten from here. So we go to Account, Import, select Invoices, and then download the sample CSV. So this is going to have all of our headings that we need, as well as showing us how we need it to be formatted for things like dates. Over here, I have some dummy data from a QuickBooks account. And you'll see here we don't have any of the right columns really. So what we're going to have to do is rename all of these and move them into place, as well as I'm just going to delete this first row. There we are. All right, so we'll get started by moving the customer column right up to the start. And then I'm going to also insert a column to the left. That way we can put in client ID on the left-hand side and rename this one to be client name. Now to get the client ID, we need to go to the client section of Kareroo, and you can either hover over the edit button, or you can actually you can click on edit and check the URL, but you'll see that at the end of the URL, it'll say clients/view/ and then a number. That number is what you need to put in the ID column. So I know what these ones are, so I'm just going to put them in 44, 45, and 46. So that's our client ID and our client name done. The next two columns that we have here are invoice email. There we are. And billing address. Now we can just leave these blank since we don't have anything from QuickBooks. That should be fine. And then invoice date is the next one. So we'll rename the date column to invoice date. But what you might notice as well is that the format is different. So to fix this, we need to highlight these dates. And firstly, actually, we need to go to File, Settings, and check that we've got Australia set as the locale. And then what we can do is go to 123 and change this to this date format here, which if you don't have this here, which you very possibly do not, go to Custom Date and Time and set it up to look like this. So it's year, full numeric year, dash month with a leading 0, dash day with a leading 0. Once you do that, hit apply, and that's going to set up our dates to be correct. The next column we need is due date. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and I'll insert a column to the right, and I'm going to paste this and then just rename it to be due date. And we'll just have it as the same dates as the invoice date. And then invoice number. So I'll drag the number column across, copy and paste. Type, we can delete this column entirely. Memo, we will change to be notes, but we also need an amounts are column. So we'll insert a column to the right, copy and paste amounts are. And we don't really need this one, but we'll put it in. So we need tags. Then we have our notes, which was memos, and then an amount. So Kareroo takes it as subtotal, tax, and total. QuickBooks has only given us one amount field here, which will be the total. So I'll rename that so that we know what it is already. I'm going to insert two columns on the left and give those a name. Now, generally speaking, with NDIS invoices, a lot of things aren't taxed. There's no GST on the invoice. So what we can do here is we can just copy these across into the subtotal column because the subtotal will be the same, and then we'll just set 0 for the tax and copy that down. Now this might not be the same for you. You may have to go and actually get those figures and bring those across. But in our case, this is the case. And then we have a paid column, which is the status column. So we'll set that there. Now, in this case, they call it paid, but we use true and false. So I need to change all of these to be true. Just drag that down. Now, if they were some other value, I'm not sure exactly what QuickBooks uses there, but you would need to change it to either true or false based off of whether it's paid or not paid. You could do something like a find and replace by doing Control F, and I'll just do true, and then I think we can do replace with. I'll replace it back to paid. So this sheet. Right, so now we can do Control F, paid, replace with true in this sheet, replace all, and then we just need to set that heading back to paid, and then that would be done. So that's how you could do it if you had a whole bunch and you didn't want to do it by renaming one and dragging them. GST, I think, is the last one. Yep. So GST is where we just need to set whether whether GST is charged on the line items. That's it. Sorry, I had to think about that one for a second. So on all of ours, it is set to false. So we can just do that there. So what's going to happen here is it's going to create an invoice in the database and it's going to give it one line item. So on your invoices in QuickBooks, when you go in and edit them, you will see multiple line items with all the different things on it. And it'll be all there ready to edit. When you're bringing that over, as you could see before, QuickBooks only gives us a limited amount of information when we export it. There are other plugins and things you can have to export it that gives you more detail, but they generally cost money, a bit harder to use, things like that. So this method here imports it as a one line item invoice with just everything included, and it'll basically just bring the amounts and the statuses, the dates, the client things like that in so that you can track it. But for actually viewing the line items, what you'll want to do is make sure that you print off or save as a PDF all of your invoices from QuickBooks. So you can basically just check all the boxes, hit print, and then save as PDF, and then just put those on a hard drive somewhere just in case you needed to go back to them later to verify something or double check something. But in this case, we have everything filled out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Download CSV, and then go back to Kareroo, choose CSV file, choose that one that we just downloaded, and then upload CSV, and hopefully this will work. There we go. 3 imported, 0 failed, 3 total. So now we should be able to go to Invoices, and there we are. There's our 3 invoices.